a lot of investors lost a lot of money with YieldMax's MSTY, Harvest's MSTE.
So let's just invest into something that's super popular, see what happens. I go crazy with it. So I was like, let's throw 200K on it and see what happens. So how do I feel about it? I love watching my stock drop by 50% in like 28 days. It's the best feeling ever. I doubt anyone at management or anyone working there owns covered call ETFs.
I mean, all this, shoot, I don't even know if I should say this. I mean, I could get in a lot of trouble too. I don't know. Yeah. But I would say, I would agree with you. This content is not financial advice and for entertainment and informational purposes only. We are not financial advisors. Do your own research. Investors, welcome a very special guest. We have Gary Gill from YouTube, who hosts the Gary Gill podcast on YouTube as well. And he's also on Blossom. Now, if you guys want to see both of our portfolios, you can on Blossom, which will be free and in the link in the description of this video and in the pinned comment section. Gary is both a newly covered call ETF investor, but primarily a growth index fund investor, as well as individual stocks. He's also interviewed some of the most prominent and influential covered call ETF investors on YouTube and so many other investors as well. Gary's covered call portfolio is completely transparent on Blossom, where he has a 34.66% dividend yield. And Gary, once again, is a long-term focused, successful investor in my opinion. And he's going to share his investing strategy and hopefully some tips for long-term success in the stock market. Welcome, Gary, to the channel.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
The main topic I want to talk about is your video about MSTE, where the video was titled that you lost $97,000 in this one fund. And then you also lost $100,000 in MSTE, where for those of you who might not know of MSTE, it is Harvest's MicroStrategy Enhanced Income Shares ETF. So basically, this fund invests in MicroStrategy, and then they write cover calls on half the portfolio, where they also use leverage, I believe 25% leverage to amplify returns, which can also go other ways on the downside as well. A comparable fund to MSTE is going to be MSTY by YieldMax, even though MSTY doesn't have any leverage, that's pretty similar, or maybe MSTW by Roundhill, MST by Defiance, or even MSII by Rex. There's so many funds that track MicroStrategy. And I just want to ask you, Gary, how do you feel about what happened with the whole MST investment? Because you were never a cover call ETF investor. I've interviewed you. Yeah. And
I still not though, to be honest.
Yeah. So you're not a cover call ETF investor, but I've interviewed you before or asked you some questions where you never touched cover call funds. Then you bought MSTE. And then of course, strategy stock didn't do so well. And then you made the video that went pretty viral about losing $100,000 in MSTE. Some of the comments were, another video I'll never watch, just here to laugh. Why do you have such a big chunk in MSTE? You might as well have invested in fart coins. You all know exactly what you should be doing, yet you invest in get rich quickly schemes. Anyway, this was quite fascinating to watch. I smell a class action lawsuit happening soon with Harvest. I like to see an interview with Harvest. It concerns me that investors might pile more into MSTE to reduce average costs. Then Harvest closes MSTE. The damage is too extreme. What are their strategies to lower the risk? And are their hands tied? So a lot of investors lost a lot of money with YieldMax's MSTY, Harvest's MSTE, any fund that invests in MicroStrategy that pays a super high yield. You probably know it. I know it, that investors got sucked into these products with high yields. Maybe they might have not understood the risks of it, but I'm going to ask you the first question on why did you first invest in MSTE? Because before, once again, I knew that you never touched a cover call fund.
So I invest in MSTE because I can afford to. So that's why I did it. I run an education YouTube channel. I like chaos. So let's just invest into something that's super popular, see what happens. I go crazy with it. So I was like, let's throw 200K on it and see what happens. So could I have done less? Yes. But I didn't. So I got 200K. How do I feel about it? I love watching my stock drop by 50% in like 28 days. It's the best feeling ever. But in reality though, when I bought it, I made a comment like, oh man, this could drop to $5. Like in that video when I said, oh, I bought this, like I was aware of like how volatile It was. I wasn't aware of because I was new to crypto. I have no crypto exposure in my overall portfolio. Like I have actual other portfolio outside what you see in public. I have zero crypto. So I was like, great, I'll give me a chance to talk about crypto, give me a chance to talk about covered calls, volatility. You know, I'm always looking for content. So this is like just check marking a lot of boxes for me. So one thing to understand is when I'm buying stuff sometimes, guys, I'm not buying it as an investor. I'm buying it as me, Gary, who has all these other factors, especially like crazy content creation. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, know that I'm coming at it from this angle and I'm very transparent about it. So that's that. Now for MSTE, there's the yield trap. Anytime you see something like, oh, they're paying out whatever crazy, like what's my portfolio? Like 30 something % yield. Like that's, none of that is, you can't maintain any of that. That's impossible. So I come from a background of index ETFs like VOO. That's what my portfolio is constructed of. I have some value stocks as well. That's what I do. So even when I was putting together the cover call portfolio, it was answering this question of like, is this sustainable? Because you saw all these videos online of people going, hey, it outperforms the S&P 500. Hey, you can live off of this. But one thing that was a recurring theme for all of them was we reinvest everything. They were always buying them and then reinvesting everything. And I go, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, then why not just get the growth one, right? Because we know that one's got a 20-year, like historical track record that I can look at. I can look at VO and know it's going to give me like an average 10% return. The other ones have a year, 2 years. MSTE has, I don't know, like 6 months or whatever crazy. So it's like, great. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start covering covered calls, but I have a marketing background. I can't talk about something unless I'm actually doing it. I'm used to putting together split test budgets. I'm used to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars testing out things that I'm marketing on. This is no different. So that's why it's so transparent. So that kind of covers that. This is why I'm so transparent. It's why I allow people to have really funny comments shitting on me. I 100% get it. I would be making the same ones, so I get it. But all the concerns that I heard though were the same concerns I have. And that's what I'm trying to talk about in the videos. It's the major one I had was what happens if the fund shuts down? That's where I kind of got nervous about it because yes, it's $200,000 for me and I'm acting like it's not a lot of money, but still $200,000. I'm not a psychopath. Like it still means something to me, regardless of what my other portfolio is. It's still, I expect it to go down, but I didn't know that it'd be that sharp for crypto. So that was a learning lesson right off the bat because I'd never done crypto. I'm like, oh, whoa, it swings way differently than everything else. Got that lesson under my belt. Hard lesson to learn, but I learned it. But it was really, I started thinking, okay, the underlying asset, regardless of what anyone thinks, I do believe a little bit more in MSTR in general, the underlying, than probably most other people do, just because I look at it like at a 10-year time frame. I'm not too worried about what's happening to it now. I think it'll be resilient the last 10 years. Realistically, what should I have done? Bought the underlying. If I cared about it, it would have been a value stock. I could get it at a discount right now by the underlying MSTR. Making covered call content, what do? You buy MSTE instead. So, but with MSTE, you now inherit this other risk of harvest, right? MSTR could last through this rough patch, but what happened if it drops to $2, $3? I don't know. I was making this video, we hover between $6 to $7. I have an average share price of $11.45. So in that video, and I'm not putting anyone at ease right now. I'm just outlining as a guy who owns a lot of it, what's going through my head. So like, I'm not advocating for MSTE. I'm not saying it's also the worst. I'm just going, here's the scenario. Here's what you're currently in, because it doesn't really help to go either way. So my biggest concern was, is this fund are they gonna have to like cut their losses, shut this bad boy down, merge it into HHIS for Americans? It's just another covered call ETF. Then I'm like, okay, cool. Then I'm out like $100,000. That's a pretty crazy loss to take in front of the internet. That's a possibility. So for me, if I'm going to treat this like an actual responsible investment now that I got my psychotic cover call, high yielding crypto ETF, what would someone who's actually responsible do in this scenario? First, if you're responsible, you don't get yourself into this scenario, but I'm in it. How do you get yourself out of it and mitigate risk? I'm just moving it into, instead of, and you mentioned this before, dollar cost averaging down, because I know a lot of people are, because it's at $5. I'm like, I can't rationalize that in my mind. First, I felt I own too much of it. So my eyeballs are just deep into MSTE. I have too much crypto, so I don't want to even get IBIT, which is an ETF of crypto. I don't want to just get the underlying because I already have too much crypto in general. Like that's too much. For me, it's prepare for worst case scenario, get as much money transferred over into something else. Other than selling, I still don't want to sell because I do think there's a higher transfer, like some sort of rebound than doomsday sayers are saying. I don't think it's actually going to dissolve. I think So people are going a little bit too far this way. Other people think it'll go to the moon. I think I'm probably going to either inherit a small loss, some sort of loss, or break even on it. Like that's in reality. And that's like after like 2 years. That's like 2 years from now, check in. I'm just going to be holding on to this thing for like 2 years and see what happens with it. But essentially, I'm just going to be using it now as a feeder position. Regardless of what the distributions go to, it was at 55 cents per share. Now it's at 45. If it goes lower, it'll be at 35. And let's see where they take it. But whatever those distributions are, now go into my bread and butter. They go into what I always fall back to what works. I'm just going to reinvest it into the S&P 500 and the Canadian market. So for S&P 500, normally I would do something like VFV for Canadians or VOO, right? In this case, I'm not doing that because I don't want to muddle up my portfolio and I want to make it easy to track on Blossom for everyone watching. So I'm just going to buy something called XUS, which is the BlackRock equivalent. So every time you see XUS on my Blossom portfolio, you know, and I know that was bought purely from MSTE distributions. And then the second one is HTIP from Hamilton, which is the S&P 500. That's that's covered calls. Gives me excuse to talk about covered calls again. But if you're going to buy covered call, what do? You buy the most boring version of it, right? It's got a 10% yield. It technically in the last few years outperformed the TSX 60, S&P 500. So if I was actually doing this properly, I would have just started with like an HDIV, slowly let it build out, treat it more like a growth stock that if I ever want to tap into some monthly income, I could, but you reinvest it. So really what you're seeing now online is, all right, what is probably the worst way to start a portfolio? Most likely, I'd say there's like a 99% chance, probably the worst way to start one, at least on public. And then if you start it here, can you transition into one of the most responsible ways to do a portfolio? So you're kind of seeing a yin and a yang. It gives me two things to talk about now. I can talk about, all right, cool, this crazy thing happened at MSTE. People can watch it to learn how to mitigate risk if they find themselves in a bind. How do you do it without falling into traps of like, I feel like kind of a little bit of a trap right now, DCAing down when you don't know actually what's going to happen. You want to remove as much hope from the equation as possible. Like you're hoping the fund doesn't close. You're hoping it doesn't keep dropping. You're hoping. I don't think it will close, but there's still a percentage chance. And because that percentage chance is in there, I got to pivot to that other strategy, right? Like I know I'm going to release a video explaining this to people. Not going to be popular. There's going to be a lot of people going, hey, DCA down, bro. You're jumping off the bandwagon. It's like, that's not how I'd actually operate. I'd actually operate by moving this into just an S&P 500 or something like that, something boring, stable. And for me, the S&P 500, I know I'm kind of going off. One thing to consider is, hey, it's at all-time highs. I bought, or sometimes it goes up and down. I don't really care about this because I've been doing it for so long that every time I look back when I buy in, I always wish I should have bought more at the all-time high. All my all-time highs I bought in and I go, God damn it, those have been great times to buy in because they're like lows. They're like so low. So if I buy it at all-time high now, I don't care because essentially MSTE has just turned into an excuse for me to dollar cost average into the S&P 500. It was something that I would have done normally, save that money normally that I'd normally do. I'm just going to use MSTE as my dollar costing averaging position into the S&P 500 and the Canadian market because I'm Canadian. And that's how I'm going to manage this. What other things about MSTE do you think I didn't address yet? We addressed the fund shutting down. I think that's valid. I think that's a real concern. The drop in distribution is going to keep happening, but they have to preserve the ETF. I don't know too much about what happened with YieldMax. I don't follow it because I'm not American. I never got into it. And like I said, MSTE is my only crazy one. Hopefully Harvest Management can properly mitigate what's happening on their end as well, which would be, there's not a whole lot they can do, right? Other than keep dropping distributions as it goes down. And you just hope that they had some sort of contingencies in place before they created this thing. Like they didn't come in like investors being like, yay, it's going to be great. Hopefully they knew, yeah, this might go really bad and then created it. But you're hoping again. And once again, hope is in the equation. So you have two options: sell, cut your losses, or pivot into something else. I'm just going to pivot for now.
Guys, I know losing money in the stock market is one of the worst feelings in the world. And one of the ways that I learned more about investing and so much more is from today's sponsor, Masterclass. Ray Dalio's class on Masterclass reinforced ways that I invest in my own $350,000 ETF only portfolio, which is to build a long-term investing strategy. Past performance never means that the future will be the exact same, and I barely watch TV, but I was hooked on the classes on Masterclass. Masterclass is a membership to classes from the world's best, just like Ray Dalio. Members get unlimited access to over 200 courses and thousands of lessons across business, writing, health, cooking, science, technology, and more for just $10 per month, billed annually. During this holiday season, you can get up to a 50% off an annual membership subscription with a Masterclass by clicking on the link in the description of this video or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Learn from the best to become your best with the Masterclass. I mean, how do you feel about investors who were buying MSTE because they might have not understood what they were getting themselves into? Maybe they were copying other people on Blossom that were investing in similar products with higher yields and seeing success if they got into a MicroStrategy cover call fund before MicroStrategy fell from all-time highs, right? It just will, it's like a vertical. Do you think investors, it's that investors' fault that they bought MSTE and didn't do the research, or is it maybe Harvest's fault that they didn't go maybe on your channel or other people's channels? I don't know if they have, and educated people on, hey, this is what MSTE does. It's riskier because it's leverage on leverage, because MicroStrategy is basically like a levered play on Bitcoin. And then you also add leverage on that. And then that amplifies your risk to the downside a lot. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. So there's a couple of compliance things. I have an advertising background. There's a couple of compliance things that funds have to consider before coming on a podcast. You've had CEOs probably on your podcast, right? And a bunch. There's a couple of things that they kind of can't say just so they don't get sued, especially in Canada. Canada's really strict. So they couldn't just jump in on like a 1-day turnaround on my podcast. Do I think they could have been more responsible about it? Most likely, if everyone fell into this trap, I'm trying to think of, like, when I used to talk about MSTE, I used to go, this is crazy. I'm going to buy it anyways and don't copy me. That was always my talk track of like, yeah, this is right. Like, but I don't know if other people were talking about that. So like, I always been like, do not do this. And then I'd get it. Do not do this. Here's why I'm doing it. I think take Harvest out of the equation, because I don't know too much of should they be more responsible, because I don't know what their lead up to it was and kind of what press release and stuff they put out. In the end, it is the responsibility of the investor, no matter what, right? You're not a 12-year-old buying this stuff. You're an adult and you have money. I feel like when people start investing, like there is a common theme of people being like, do your research, do your research. Everyone does hear that initially, I feel like, especially from everybody. I think people get sucked in by the yield trap of you're going to make, oh, you have $100,000. You can make $2,000 a month. You can retire up $300,000. I think that's so alluring. And I think people get stuck into this mindset of they feel like they're winning or hacking the system when they get a paycheck every 2 weeks or every month from the fund, from something they own. So I think there's a psychological thing there where if you're new to investor, you haven't conditioned your mind to delay gratification for 10, 20, 30 years. You actually just want it now. So I think there probably was a lot of content created that appealed to that, right? Like when I do a podcast thumbnail and I have someone who has like a passive income portfolio, I'm aware of that mental crux because I have an advertising background, right? And I'm vocal. I tell you guys, I'll make the thumbnail 5 ETF passive portfolios, $30,000 a month. Because that I know is going to get you to click because you'll be like, how can I have that? And you're going to click on that and go, so if I buy these 8 ETFs, I'll make this much money. But they're not breaking down that like, yeah, okay, all of these are leveraged. So you get upside, but you get exposed horribly to the downside. If anyone understands the market, nothing stays up here. If anyone understood the MicroStrategy business model, you know it's decoupling a bit from Bitcoin. It's got its own thing going on. You know that they're also trying to figure out how to monetize this correctly. And they're in the early stages of this. So they're trying to figure out how to make money off this giant Bitcoin holding that they have. So they're in that. So when you have a company within that kind of growth period, it reminds me a lot of, this is not like one-to-one comparison. I bought Meta in 2022 when they're doing a bit of a restructuring. They tanked. It reminds me a bit of that. MicroStrategy and this weird thing where they're kind of getting undervalued. Don't buy MicroStrategy, I'm just saying. But then they'll pop out of it in like 3, 5, 6 years. But there's this horrible downflow for a couple of years now. Well, they might be undervalued and people didn't know that. So they launch in with hype, overvalued, maybe undervalued. People don't know when that happens and you're dealing with leverage, you're going to take all that downside. And nobody talked about it because it's sexy. They click off the videos. I would suppose Harvest wouldn't want to talk about it because they're like, no one's going to buy our fund then. If you go, hey, you could go from your $1,000 a month, but then we cut distributions, you're down to $700 a month. And we cut it again, you're down to $500 a month. And if you bought it wanting actual monthly income and you're actually going to pay off your utilities bill with it or your cell phone bill or help pay down your mortgage, you're, effed in that scenario. I'm chill about it because so many factors are involved in my scenario where it wasn't necessary for any of my quality of life. It was a test budget I had for YouTube. And I don't use the income, but everyone else who bought it did not buy for that weird circumstance that I'm in. They're buying it because they're like, I'm going to work less hours, retire early, do all this. It's like, I get it if you want something highly volatile, but you have to structure around this like actual foundation of go way lower yield. If you're going to go lower yield, go something that has proven lower NAV. And then I still haven't figured it out. Like I've been working on this since April, trying to figure out how to get covered calls to work. I still kind of come back to, you still need to have some sort of basic S&P 500 ETF sitting there to capture upside. Like I just haven't figured out a work around it. That's why when I'm pivoting my distributions, I'm still buying XUS, or for you guys, it'd be like a VOO, because I don't see how you can't, because MSTE, going back there, they go, okay, it does bounce back. Best case scenario, we go from our whopping $6 back up to like $8. That'd be great. But because we're writing covered calls on everything, and if it was just MSTR, I would have got up to like $13, $14, but we're capping all our upside. So my recovery is going to be weaker than MSTR. My recovery will be all an MST, and then it'll also be weaker than Bitcoin in general, because I'm doing writing all the calls. So I inherited all the downside and we got the worst of it. So you're in this worst case scenario for downside. And then if a recovery does happen, I get the worst possible scenario for a recovery. And so it's like, okay, that's the scenario. I bought it though, knowing that was a scenario. And I think a lot of people bought it not knowing that was a possible scenario. Like I said, the scenario happened. It's still though, from a guy like me who's investing for a long time, I'm an amateur to crypto investing. The crypto swing caught me off guard. So for me, I still got a hard lesson of, man, if you go in crypto, this thing could change overnight. It doesn't work like other sectors. It's just a whole different ball game. So I think that was a amateur move I made of underestimating that aspect of crypto. And I'd been told that a lot. I actually had guests on who were crypto people, and they're like, oh man, I'll watch it drop 90%. And I internalize it a bit, had in the back of my head, but you don't really quite understand how fast it can swing until it happens to you. So that was my biggest takeaway from this. It's like, now that I know how crypto works, it's going to change my buying behavior when I go back into that market, because now I have a better understanding. At least I emotionally understand it better. But I think for Harvest, they are a corporation that wants to make money. I doubt anyone at management or anyone working there owns covered call ETFs. I'd have a high likelihood that they do not own it. And I have a feeling that they probably own my other portfolio of some index funds, and they're just chilling, right? And I think that's what's happening. And I don't think no one's told me that, but I just would think that they don't do that. Because you're about to say something?
I mean, I don't even know if I should say this. I mean, I could get in a lot of trouble too. I don't know. Yeah. But I would agree with you that, I mean, I've been to New York City, and I've talked to dozens of probably 20 plus CEOs that have covered call products. And some of them don't flat out own their product. Growth ETF CEOs do own that product. Yeah. Yeah. I would say ETF issuers that have lower yielding products, 10% on the S&P, 13, 14% on the NASDAQ 100, they actually do own that. But anything above DGen, I would say anything above 15%, no way. They don't. It's mainly for retail investors as a tool. I would say these aren't going to be, in my opinion, a long-term investing strategy. They're tools, right? So MSTE, maybe even MSTY by YieldMax for Americans, is a tool. That doesn't mean you make it the core of your portfolio unless you really like Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. But back to your point on will the fund close? I'm just going to chime in and say no. Reason why, because they could always reverse split. So if the fund goes to $2, $3, $4, they'll just reverse split it because it's better for the options chain. It makes everything better operationally and systematically for them. So when you get a big fund, I don't know how much is in AUM of MSTE. I'm assuming billions at this point.
Nope, not even close. So I think it's Canadian market. It ain't the US, so they don't work that way. So I think I could be wrong. It was at 500 million And now because the stock decline is down to 350 million. I think so. Now I could be wrong about that, but you have to take in consideration that the stock crashed, so the AUM went down because of that.
Right.
I think there's actually been a lot of buying back in activity because I think most people are just holding and DCAing down or entering now at this point. I feel like Canadians do that a lot. Like we just wait for the absolute bottom, start buying into stuff, and we like to DCA into stuff. And we also like dividend investing a lot, just as a general. I'm generalizing Canadians, so bear with me. So I think that's happening there. But for a Canadian fund, it's not massive, it's not small. It just, these smaller firms, I say Harvest would be like a smaller firm fund. They don't get too massive. So like that's kind of where it's at. I do think it'll reverse split. Like I said, it doesn't really technically hurt anything. It's more of like an optics thing. It just sounds bad too as well. Like, oh, what happened? It's just, no, like, dude, operationally it helps out. So I do think that'll happen if it hits the $2 to $3 mark for that. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Your topic of like people trying to live off these products. I know you've interviewed so many cover call people that have a wide range of portfolios. Some of them have higher yielding ETFs in like the 30, 40, 50 plus yielding range. Some of them are lower. So what are your thoughts on people trying to live off these portfolios? Some of these investors, I would say, I think the most I've ever interviewed was about like 1.2 million. And if you tell me to retire on 1.2 million, I would say there's like no way.
Yeah, same. So yeah, then we retired right now. Like that would never happen. So with their portfolios, when I talk about them, there's a couple of things to consider. So they hold a lot of them in tax shelter accounts. In Canada, there's TFSA. I think that's like your Roth IRA. And we have something called the RRSP, which, it's good for tax deferral. So they hold them there. RRSP, they're not going to tap into until retirement. TFSA, they can take out any time they want. So that's how they get around paying a lot of taxes on the income coming in. I have mine in non-reg. A lot of these people, when you see the large portfolios, hold them in their TFSA, so their Roth IRA type account. Once again, hitting the same problem. I think I have 100% hit rate of nobody is using their distributions. Everybody's reinvesting it. And that's the only reason I got so aggressive in my non-reg, because it was bothering me that there was no case study of people actually using their distributions. So it's not very usable to me because because I come back to the same thing of and by the way, I like all these guys. I consider them buddies of mine. I think they're doing fine for their portfolios. I think they can weather all this and it's great. But when you're talking about the optimal way of doing it from a guy from my background, I'm still deferring to basic ETF investing, just because when you look at, hey, it's overperformed in the last 2 years, that doesn't mean anything to me. It just doesn't mean anything to me. If you outperform for 5 years, it means nothing to me. You got to be looking at like 20-year time horizons. There's too much wishful thinking, and there's too much. Like how many models have, like, I probably run 1 million models on cover call ETFs of like, if I put this much in and this return and this is like, what would it look like? It's like, it's still all fantasy. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the actual return is. So based off of that, it doesn't feel like it's the best strategy to go down to. The guys who are doing it, I feel like for them to mitigate risk, they hold, other than there's one really popular one in Canada called Adriano. He, passive income investing. He has the smallest portfolio. So he has, HYLD, which is, it's the S&P 500. It's like everything. He has, a crypto one with Harvest, and he has a couple other one that tracks the NASDAQ 100, but he's just got a couple things that hit these large buckets. And so he kind of went broad with it. And that's what he does. And he's reinvesting everything as well. He lives in Panama, so you get some tax incentives there. But I don't know, because like I said, he's not living off it as well. His portfolio grows year over year. I couldn't say that it's a bad strategy because it's currently working for him. I can't say that it's the best strategy though either, because I know, or my investing career, what's been the best strategy? It's been a mix of growth investing with occasional value stocks that are just clearly undervalued. Like, when Google crashed and Meta crashed in 2022, it's like, let's grab a little bit of that. Like stuff like that. Basic, like investing 101, I know that works. I just don't think I have the same conviction as these guys to go like, this is the way, this is the best way. And I don't think they say that either. I'll be fair to Adrian as well. He's never said once that his way is the best way. He's just saying, this is what I like and I prefer. And for his rationale, and I think he does a good job of this, he does a comparison. He goes like, hey, it does perform the same as the TSET 60 and the S&P 500. But then he also makes sure to position it as, this is also a preference. I don't like selling stocks I don't want to convert in retirement. So if necessary, I'll cap my upside to not deal with that headache. Right. So when you look at it as a straight statistic, like someone like me from marketing, I go, well, that's dumb. I'll take the headache so I can get more money. But for him as a human being, as a normal person, most people go, no, I don't want the headache. I got a family, I got bills, I got a career, I'm trying to do other stuff. I prefer if I just buy this thing, I can hold it forever. And when retirement happens, I just keep doing the same stuff. There's no transitionary period of 5-10 years before retirement to get my portfolio into something else. It's like, I never have to think about that. I think that for me, it's a human element, not the investor element. The human element has been the biggest justification for covered call investing in my mind. But then you're no longer thinking like an investor. You're just thinking of, okay, this is a possible other income stream down the line. Same way that I buy a house, I have a rental property. Me buying a home is not necessarily the best investment for me in my life right now. Me just investing in an index fund will actually have a higher return over 30 years at the current market prices here in Vancouver, BC. It's just so inflated, but I'm doing it to diversify my income, get some rental property and just have it there. But I'm still dumping well over $1 million into that, where I could have just dumped it into the S&P 500. If you're investing, you'd be like, you're an idiot, right? Why are you doing that? But I'm just going, no, it's one other avenue. I treat covered call ETFs a little bit like that. I got my actual invest in growth portfolio. I've covered call, which I'm not using income, but I could turn into income. I have homes, rental property, and they kind of break even, but a little bit of income on them as well. But there's 3 different buckets. Right. So that's kind of how I frame it in my mind now, at least. And I think for Adriano, he's been the most transparent of this. He's just going, this really works for me. So other people get excited. They go, I'll do it. I'll copy him. And he specifically said on my podcast, don't copy me. I live in Panama. I have like my own preferences. I got like 2 million in this thing. It's like, don't do your own thing. I'm just showing you what I do. It's so popular right now. He's blowing up as well. So he can't. Other people who do it, like Perry, Paul, and Paul on Blossom, you could find them. I did podcasts with them. They'll just have like 100 covered call ETFs. They'll just have like 1 million of them. And then that's how they mitigate their risk. Like we'll just have like 5% in everything. And they're buying and selling and rotating these things at all times. I'm going, well, now the headache's back on. Now I'm doing this every week and managing this portfolio. Or that the whole point of me having an index fund is so I didn't have to do that. But they enjoy doing it. And now you're back to the human element. So when you talk to them, it's like, well, he's like doing this. It's like, this is fun for them. I go, well, there you go again. So none of this is investing advice. What I'm saying is Adriano does it because he likes it. He works his personality and how he likes to operate. Just like 6-7 ETFs, chills with them, dumps his money into them. That's that. The other guys do it because they like managing 50 different positions. They've even said we just like seeing income come in every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. They like that feeling because they're old school guys. Everything, if you notice, has been an emotional thing. None of it has been just black and white investing talk. So when you see a growth investor and you'll see a guy like Ben Felix in Canada, they're like, why are these guys doing this? And you're like pulling up their hair and getting frustrated. They just didn't understand the human element. It's like, we're not thinking with that side of our brains, guys. We're thinking of the human element, and which is a large part of retail investing and has nothing to do with institutional investing, right? Because institutional investors would never think like this. So for me, that's where my brain went. I get it now, but you have to not think like a black and white investor. You have to think like, I'm just a human. I'm used to getting a paycheck. What fits my lifestyle? And most of these guys, at least Adriano is most forthcoming of like, I get I could have some capped upside. I think some of the newer guys might not quite understand that because they haven't been doing it for long enough. Like how much of the upside they're capping, especially over 10, 20, 30 years. Like it's pretty wild. I think they only see those short-term gains and they go like, it might just be smarter for me to just buy like SPY or something. And when I want to just sell off 4% when I need some money, just buy it, like sell off 4%. Right. And then just take a lump sum and then use that money. And when you do like a 1-to-1 comparison, it's probably even like you actually get more out of it monthly if you just sell off a little bit every time you need money. Like that's probably the smarter way to do it. At least that's a proven way that will actually maintain, like you can have proven income over the next few years if you just did that like one little modeling of it. Because if they're not using distributions monthly, none of these guys are, most of them aren't. What's stopping you from doing that? You're just reinvest. You have to buy more shares to keep growing your portfolio. Why not just buy a growth fund in itself? And then when you need the money, just sell a little bit off and then you have the money and then you set it. Like that's where my logic's going with it. But you know, that's what I do on the channel. That's what my Blossom portfolio is. You'll track where I'm trying to go with this. Like, how do I make this work that makes sense for like my brain?
How much in dividends were you earning? Maybe an average, because I know it probably varied a lot, or maybe it didn't, from MSTE when you invested the $200,000.
probably like 9,000 something, maybe, because I ended up buying it. And then I ended up buying a little bit more on the first little bit of a dip. So I had like 200,000, then I ended up getting like $220,000 worth of shares. And then I also own Evolve ETFs, which has one called Biggie. Uh, and that one actually had logic behind buying it. I'll actually be honest. So right now, I wrote down the number because you asked me beforehand. Right now, I get $8,972 per month off distributions with the current distribution cuts and everything. So let's say $9,000 a month, right? And that all just gets dumped into the S&P 500 and the Canadian market now, just index funds. Well, a covered call, one for HDIV. So that's where it's all just transitioning, about $9,000 a month somewhere else. If the distributions stay where they're at, but obviously that'll get cut. It'll get bumped up a bit from the HDIV at that 10% yield, but 10% yield compared to, the other ones, you won't see that. It won't make up the difference for sure. I have Biggie from Evolve, and I don't talk about it too much because it's not that exciting. It's maybe $20,000-$30,000 in it. I don't know, maybe more. I have no idea. And I'm not trying to be like cool when I say I don't have no idea. I don't obsess about this stuff too much. I'll be honest. Like this is not like my livelihood. So like I'll just buy it and kind of forget about it. It's on Blossoms. You can just take a look at it. I bought that with a strategy of I want to learn how to do covered calls. I was like, cool, that'd be a cool series of watching me learn how to do it. I'm like, I need to understand just the mechanics of it better. I think that's good. But then I was like, all right, never mind. I got 2 kids. I'm running a business, YouTube channel. I ain't got no time to learn how to do it. So I was like, all right, well, what are covered calls actually supposed to be used for? It's income that you can use right now by writing calls on the underlying assets of stocks that you'd ideally like to own in the first place, right? That's hopefully what would be happening. So Biggie just owns 10 of them and they write calls on them. It's like, and they're equally weighted 10%, 10%, 10%. I'm like, oh, that's the most like straightforward. Here's what we do. It's a less Frankenstein product compared to all the other ones. It's just like, we own 10 products. We write calls on them. Here's some money. It's not going to grow. It just, that's it. It is what it is. If you don't want to write calls yourself, pay us a management fee. We'll write them for you. Like that's how it felt with the product. Great. That is the best example of like me having a rental property. Great. I'm going to have it here. You are specifically designed to give me income every single month. I get no upside. You write calls on these 10 stocks like Tesla, whatever else. I take that money and I can do whatever I want with it. I feel if you were going to do cover call ETFs, I would do it like this. If you needed money, you would use cover call ETFs. Let's say you get in a position, you lose your job and you're like, shit, but I got $500,000 in whatever ETFs. Maybe I'll convert $100,000 into some higher yielding stuff, possibly like maybe like a Biggie, but you go in and like, they're just going to write calls on this because I don't know how to do call writing. That's like the worst. But then, or maybe like $20,000, but you have to go in knowing like, I'm not going to get any capital appreciation. I'm not going to do any, like nothing can come from this. And this will just give me a little bit of income every single month while I get my next job. Like like maybe, but it wouldn't be, you would never buy, in my opinion, like a Biggie or something to be like, oh, I'm still going to hold this in 10 years. Like if you're going to own a cover call ETF, it's got to be for income you're going to use today for some reason. Like that's kind of how I see it. Like you got to be able to justify it in my brain. And that's the only reason why you'd own a higher yielding one, like a Biggie or like even an HHIS is like, for whatever reason, you just need higher income that month or within those next period of months to supplement something that's happened in your life for some reason. Like that's how I would see it working. Maybe for the 500,000, you probably do 100,000, you probably do like 10,000, just something to nudge, like look at what your bills are for the month and be like, I just need to cover this or something. I don't know, something responsible. I'm just saying don't liquidate your growth investments. I'm saying like keep that all intact, or probably the more responsible thing is like transition your any new income into covered calls to be like, I'll build this up slightly so I have another income line. But you have to treat it like, I think maybe get the growth thing out of your brain, treat it like a capped upside thing that gives you some income every single month. And it could crash if it's leveraged. Like, I don't know. I just understand the risk associated, but you can see like I'm still working my brain around it. I haven't figured out how these things work long term. I haven't figured out how they outperform growth. The reasons for owning them have all come back to emotional decisions less than investing decisions. And even when I justify owning them right now, I still came back to, do you need like income right now, like this month, and you don't want to sell investments? So maybe own some covered calls to help make up the 5% gap you have in your monthly bills, or like the 10%. Like you still can't be reliant on them in order to cover your cost of living as of right now. So that's where I'm at. So I guess I'm overly cautious about all this.
One of the questions that you got from Blossom was, why would you go 80% plus into one single stock cover call fund, which is MSTE? So was it just for basically experimental purposes for the channel, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. I also just didn't really care a whole lot. So it wasn't like, it wasn't, to be, I know this is dumb to say, but like, I'd been looking at that money for so long. Like, it'd been years just sitting there. I was doing nothing with it. It was getting eaten away from inflation. And I was like, well, I want to talk about something crazy. MSTE. I'll just buy this. So like, and I was very like, I'll buy this one. I mean, I'll talk about it, see what happens. I assuming it would crash down. If I were to do something like proper with it, it would have been probably just to actually do it, be like 50% MST. I mean, 50,000 MST, 50,000, the actual underlying MSTR, probably to get that. And then I would have just 100K in actual Bitcoin and just done that, like figured out how to buy actual Bitcoin, like in a wallet or something, like done that. That would be like the actual, cause I was really just looking for crypto cover call exposure. It did crypto and cover call. And I'm just busy. I didn't want to have like 18 things I was tracking. I was like, okay, cool. I'll just talk about this for a while. I'll buy a bunch of this. Then it just like tanked. I was like, all right, now I got a lot to talk about. Let's see what happens with this. All right. So it just kind of in a weird way worked out that way. Like there's not all negative, but I think people are looking at like, was there some like weird playouts? And I was like, no, I was buying it. And it would be, I don't want to undervalue the amount of money it is, but it wasn't something I was like overly stressed about. I'd been looking at it for so long. Like, you have no idea, like a very long time. I was like, oh, this thing's doing absolutely nothing. I'm like, I got to do something with it. And I had that money for YouTube. And I was like, and I had no other thing lined up in my brain. I had no, like, I'm going to buy these 18 things. I was like, I had nothing. I was like, I'll buy this one because I feel like I want to talk about it, see what happens. And the $200,000 allocation for me, it wasn't outside my wheelhouse of investments I've done. So it's not like, in my brain, it wasn't like this overly large number. It was very much in line of other investments I've made in private with other things I've done. So it wasn't like I was breaking some rule of like, I'm over investing in something. It's like, no, I've done a couple of like more than a couple of those in the last few years in other stocks. So it's like, I wasn't like changing my rhythm or anything. I was like, yeah, cool. It was an okay. And because I had nothing else lined up, 200,000 rather than 50,000. But like logically, I probably would have done like going back 50,000, 50,000, 100,000. Right? Something like that, but it is what it is.
What do you think about like the negativity comments? Because I've only seen negative comments on cover call ETFs when people buy them and then it doesn't go their way. So what are your thoughts on maybe like people hating on this community of cover call investors, and when you're super transparent about what happened? I was blown away by some of the comments I saw.
I think for me, it's okay because, like I'm 40. Like, it's okay. I can deal with some internet people talking shit about me. That's okay. So like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I got a couple good laughs from it. Some of them I was like, come on, man. It could be a little bit more original, but I never at any point went like, oh, this hurts my feelings. Like, there was no sense of caring. Just some good laughs. I was more looking at like, oh, this is crazy engagement because I have an advertising background. I was like, whoa, this gets people going crazy when you talk about this stuff, especially when you come in at a loss. There are people waiting in the rafters to be like, you're a moron. You're an idiot. So it was very interesting, like, for me, a case study of like what content does, and depending on what you talk about, like this negative skewed content can get a crazy reaction out of people who are just waiting to shit on it. So that was interesting from an advertising standpoint. So I was kind of looking at it through that lens. So that's probably why I didn't get offended. I just don't care. I also understand because I've been in digital marketing as my background for so long. I understand. Don't take the internet seriously. I also understood what my financial situation was. So they're like, oh, you're ruined. I was like, I'm not ruined. I'm cool, man. I'm buying another home. Like, I'm good to go, man. Like, we're good. So like, that didn't bother me. So I think when inherently none of the comments, no one hit the nail on the head when it came to me and what I was actually am. So none of it like hurt. It hurts when someone says something truthful about you. That hurts. I've had someone insult me like in my personal life. I'm like, oh, that hurt because you knew this thing about me and it hurt my feelings. And that was a sensitive thing. None of the comments did that, so I didn't really get hurt by anything. Some of them were hilarious. Like, some people get very, very clever with their insults, so I appreciated those. Overall, there was some people being like, hey, you put me at ease. They're good. They're kind of woven in between. I think some people were stressed out. I'm like, cool. That was kind of the positive about it. I'm like, cause there are people who are generally stressed. I'm like, hey, I got a bunch of money in this too, and I'm doing okay. Like, just chill for a bit. And like, the fund probably won't close, and you'll maybe break even or maybe lose a bit. It's not the end of the world, right? And that was kind of what I was trying to do with it. That was actually, hopefully, what came across to the people who need to hear it. But the negativity is warranted. I think if people who buy these don't see like how bad it can go, like they need to know that. It probably stops a lot of people from doing like making a whole portfolio out of something high yielding now. It's like a good, like, I need to like pause and like build something that has an actual foundation in it. I think I've talked to a lot of like other people like yourself offline about it, be like, dude, whoa. And I'm like, would you care if someone had you would it hurt your feelings of it if you had that much in your comments? Would it bother you?
No, I don't care. Do what you want, but just don't be mean to other people.
Yeah, that's kind of where it was. Like before this, someone was being kind of mean. I had these, a new video series where it's called like Unfiltered, where people go off on rants, and I kind of clip it and make it into like content on the channel. I just started trying it out, but one was with Perry, covered call, and someone said something kind of unflattering to him. That's the only time I timed back. It was on Blossom. I posted it, someone left a comment, and I went, hey, like, you don't have to talk like that. Like, you don't know who this guy is. You don't know, you're attacking his character. That makes no sense to me. Like, you can say you don't like covered calls in a better way. That bothers me a bit. I've talked to him. He is the sweetest guy. And I think people don't understand this. Like, super sweet. He's like, oh, and he said something along the lines of like, he's insincere. Like, he's the most sincere human being you will ever meet. So that's the only time I went on the defensive. I was like, you don't, like, he's such a nice guy, and he's doing covered calls for all the right. He's trying to make his life better. And that's why he's doing it. So I don't like that. It doesn't bother me. It's all good. I told him exactly what I'm telling you, but I just felt like there is a better way of going about it, because we're all adults. We only want the channel to make our lives better. So you should be able to actually tear me apart, but you can do it in a civil way, because we all read the comments. You're setting a tone within the investing community, and you're making weirdos out of it. Like weird, jaded, cultish, everyone's got their tribe weirdos out of this, where it's not that. It's just like, here's freedom of information. I'm openly telling you this isn't working and this is sucking right now, and I have a strategy to fix it. Let's just be like, okay, tell me what else I could be doing better. Say what you want, but you can do it in a civil way. And that was more or less a video about it. And it was also saying, guys, don't worry about me. Like, it's all good. Like one of those that clear that up. I was like, cause I was like, well, I didn't care. Like, I didn't care nearly as much as everyone else cared. I went off and had fun. Like, it crashed. I went on vacation. So like, it wasn't really on my mind. And I think I kind of had to like let the audience know that, like, it's all good. But I think because the industry it's all adults. And I look at even my demographic of the data for the channel. It's people between the ages of 25 to 55. They have no reason to be acting like teenagers. It doesn't make sense to me. Like that goes out to the people around you. If you're doing that online, it reflects on what you're doing in your day-to-day life. It's just going to make your life harder to behave in that way. It's a lot easier to navigate life when you're just a little bit nicer and kinder to people. I at least find my life is a lot easier when I just kind of live that way. And it was just kind of saying that. I'm like, there's no harm in just being nice to people, even when you disagree with them. Like, there's no problem with it. Like, I interviewed Kyle Livingston. He's on 2 days ago. He put out a video being like, Gary Gill, his life is getting ruined. And I interviewed him right after on his channel. So on his channel, he's like tearing me apart. I had no problem. I brought him on my podcast and said, let's chat. I want to hear your opinion. But he did it in a respectful way when he was on the podcast. So he's like, I'm just saying. Well, sometimes you get that's his shtick, right? He kind of gets like that. But I still have open dialogue with everybody. That's the whole point. I just feel like you can talk to everybody, whether you disagree or agree with them, in a respectful manner. And that's just the tone I want to set with the channel. And that was a large part of that second video. Was like, I kind of don't do that on this channel. I'm all about disagreements. I'm all about, not agreeing with what I'm doing, but it's kind of like you can't try to demean other people and do that. It doesn't really make sense.
Why do you think that people younger and even older too, like before they start retiring, people just starting to invest in the market, why do you think that they gravitate towards cover call ETFs? Because last year, even the year before that, it was, all right, let me go ahead and buy VOO. Let me go ahead and buy S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, growth ETFs, even lower yielding dividend ETFs within like 2 to 4% dividend yield. But now everybody's gravitating towards these super high yielding ETF products.
Everyone's worried about their futures. Everyone's worried about their job security, their monthly income. So many people I know in tech in my industry are all worried about like, oh my God, we're going to replace by AI. And they're trying to lock in some level of stable income. So when you hear something that's high yield, not pay you stable income, you get less worry about your job and your future because you know you have this backup plan with these high yielding things or these covered call ETFs. You don't have the 30 years. You don't have to wait 30 years to realize your gains. It's like, you don't have 30 years. What happens if you get fired next week? Amazon laid off 10,000 people. Like everyone's cutting, everyone's replacing AI. It's like the only jobs that are good are plumbers and construction workers, right? People who use their hands. So and then a lot of people are miserable in their jobs. So they're going, I just want to change careers and go somewhere else. Oh, maybe if I have these, a lot of it is based in uncertainty in their own careers and their futures and their monthly income. And they feel like this is solving that problem. Almost every product is a problem solution. Every successful problem works off that. In my advertising background, I construct a problem or I look for what the problem is and my product is always the solution. Cover call ETFs are a solution to the problem that people are having of, oh my God, I can't pay my bills, or what happens if I can't pay my bills, and da da da. That's why I go back to the emotional aspect of it. I can't wait 20 years. That's all great. Buy your VOO, Gary. Like, we can't all do that. We don't all have like money coming in. We can't be so chill as you. I got to live off it now. So they buy it. All emotionally driven. And I get it. Like, you got to be compassionate in that aspect. Like, I come from, like, a lot of people watching are in fortunate positions. We can buy VOO and chill. That's like that is a really fortunate position. I run my own business. You run your own business now. Like, you're full-time ETF Academy, bro. You're doing your thing. So you know what, you're in control of the dial of your income, right? You're not reliant. You can't fire yourself. They could work for a company for 20 years and get laid off. Great. I only have $200,000 saved. If that happens, oh, I can get how much a month? It's all back to the psychology of it. It's problem, solution. Problem is they worry about monthly income and their financial future. Solution is these ETFs. And that's all it is. And they've been positioned that way, more or less. And the talk track is more or less that way. Almost everyone who buys it talks about it in that way. I think, other than MSTE, which has been the exception where people go, it's going to go to the moon and blow up, and probably because it's tied to crypto, no other cover call ETF is like, I can't wait till this thing triples in price and we all get rich. It's like, no, the monthly income, right? No one's looking for it to go to the moon. It was only MSTE because it's a crypto tied MSTR. It's a weird fusion of stuff. It's why it's tanking so hard right now. But for most cover call ETFs, it's like, oh, the yield I can live off of. And maybe the NAB won't erode fully, right? Because if you reinvest, or all these justifications for why to own it. But it's all that. It's all on emotion. And I get it. I understand it. I'm sympathetic to it. I personally, I'm just sort of obsessed about it right now as far as figure out, how do you make this functional in a non-registered account so you're getting taxed on this stuff, and you plan on using it. And I've tried it with $200,000, and right now I'm down 50%. I can't use any of my distributions because I have to move them into other positions to mitigate risk. So as of right now, from my perspective, it's not looking too good. But I also started in the most aggressive way to do it. So we can eliminate one strategy from everyone's list. So if anyone ever goes, you can go high yielding portfolio and you can make it work. I think I've proven definitively you cannot. Like, I think you should write that off if you're a cover call investor. Like, nope, can't do that. I have to at least put in some lower yielding products. Like I mentioned, like the HDF, like a 10%, like don't go above 13%. Like, try to stay 13 and lower, 10 to 13 if you want to play with that range, and start there and play with that area. And that's what you have to work with. And if for whatever reason you're reliant on this for income, use the rest of your time, like I do, and most likely you do, to figure out how to generate more cash flow monthly in your actual life. Like, my obsession in life is, how do I generate more income every month? I'm trying to beat my monthly quotas every month. So for my November, I'm trying to crush how much I earned last month. That's all I think about. So I'm not even thinking about like, oh, well, my distributions raised. I don't give a shit about that. I'm thinking, how much can we bring in through my corporation every single month? Like, that's actually what I'm thinking. And I can use that money, and I'm building my portfolio in other ways. I'm investing in other stuff. Like, I'm just trying to maximize actual income right now. So not actual distributions. And I think that's what they should do. Build the modest positions right now. I feel like whatever it is, like just HYLD for Canadians, there's a bunch of other ones. Focus on that. If you want the high yielding stuff in your covered call portfolio, make it a small percentage, like maybe 10% of your covered call, just like bolster it a bit if you kind of want that extra lift, but focus on the more boring ones, 10 to 13% yield, and then just obsess. If you're someone who's worried about your future income of learning new skills, generating more income, starting side hustles, doing whatever the hell it takes to do that. You better have an emergency fund, by the way. Have an emergency fund before you invest in any of this shit. Like don't do any cover call investing unless you're looking at like 6 months minimum of all expenses paid in an emergency fund. Like before the meeting, you mentioned like, you're asking me, hey, what are your favorite ETFs? I put down number 2 as cash.to. It's just a cash ETF. It's where I just dump money in when I don't know what I'm going to do with it. That's all it is. It just gives you like a 4% return. It just, instead of holding actual cash, I just put it in there for 2. And while I think about what I'm going to do with it, that's not even an ETF. It's just cash. It's just another way to have cash. It's just in an ETF form. It's like, but I also use that where my emergency fund is in a cash ETF because the price never changes. I can liquidate it tomorrow, have it. So if I want to liquidate $100,000, liquidate it. Bought in at $100,000, got in at $100,000, get a little bit of a return just to beat inflation, then we're good. Like that would be what I would do. I'd like buy cash ETF first, emergency fund. And then if you want to go into covered call ETFs, buy an HYLD, an HDF or whatever hell it is, 10 to 13%. Start there. And if you want to, 5-10% in super high yielding things if you want to, but buy them knowing this could depreciate super, super fast. And if you don't believe it, you just look at like my Blossom portfolio and be like, oh yeah, that guy, right? So like, and then you're going to watch how I transition over to the more passive approach, like the more like conservative approach.
What are your thoughts on investors who took out personal loans, maybe even margin, to invest in MSTE or similar types of cover call products?
So I've been really vocal about this, like actually exceptional. I get a lot of comments about this because people disagree. I don't believe in loans or margins for investing. Like I know leverage is kind of like the fund's doing it on our behalf. We're doing like leverage and like that's their version. So that is that. But me personally, I don't like owing anybody money by the end of all this. Like I'm highly debt averse. So my psychology is I'm the kind of guy who pays on credit cards before they're due. I checked my last credit card bill. It was like negative $3,000. So like I just overpay on constantly. I just don't like looking at like actual debt. I don't like having debt. Like the most you'll have is like positive debt if it's like a home mortgage. But even then with a home mortgage, I'm like, I have enough rental suites to cover the mortgage and all costs. So I'm actually cash positive. Like I still think like this. So the idea of margin doesn't make sense to a guy like me. I'm like, if this goes bad, then I'm out, then I owe someone else money. One person mentioned in my comments, oh, I took a home credit line. So I think it works the same as States. You can get a home credit line of like $400,000 or $500,000 towards purchasing you can use it to purchase your home, the down payment on the home. They use that to buy high yielding ETFs. I'm going, that is madness. So that is like psychotic to me because I'm down on MSTE. I don't owe anybody money. First of all, I ain't even sold. I'm just down. But the thing is, I don't have to worry about, okay, now I'm in debt. Now I owe people money. Now, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? None of that exists because I'm only using money that I just had available. And I always got to frame how to say this without sounding like an asshole. Even the money I'm using is just house money. It's just money I have from investments that worked out. I'm not even like, it's hard to like explain how detached I am from this investment, but it's just like, it's not funny money because it's a lot of money, but it's not money I worked hard for, that we had toil. It's just like I sold a couple of good investments. It was just sitting there. I didn't do anything with it. And I'm casual about it because that's just, it's the truth. It's the reality of the situation. But that's the only way I could buy into this. If I didn't have all those circumstances, it wouldn't have ended up this way. Right. And that's something to consider because when you're watching somebody online talking about it, please consider their circumstances before you purchase. Now, they might not all be as vocal about their circumstance. I try to tell you guys everything about me so you can go like, that's not me. I'm not him. And that's why I always say, don't follow my investments because I'm doing them for like 18 different reasons other than what you're doing for. But please try to put yourself in the shoes of the person you're watching. Go like, does my life look anything like them? Do I have the same financial situation, the same goals, anything? Most likely you don't. So then sit back, be super hyper honest with yourself and go, wait a second, I make $50,000 a year. I'm paying X amount in bills. I have $2,000 in savings. I should chill the F out and I should just start investing slowly, buy VOO, and I should be really thinking about how to take my income from 50,000 to 100,000. I should just obsess about that. And that's what I would do. That's all I would do if I was in that scenario. If I was making 100K, Still the same. Okay, I'm making $100,000. How could I get this thing to like 250,000 income generation for myself? I'm just going to keep investing into VOO, basically putting my money somewhere stable, 10% appreciation historically or a little bit more. I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm just going to keep, that's how what they should really, really be doing. It's just so sexy though to talk about income generation and all that stuff. And if you're like, I go back to job security. If you're worried about job security, learn more skills. Push yourself, lose sleep over just upgrading your skill set. I do that. I'm 40 and I'm constantly getting better at my skill set. I haven't chilled out at all. And I got 2 kids. I'm constantly at it, trying to figure out how to upgrade, how to evolve with everything and just earn more money monthly. That's all I would do for most people.
Now, tell me about your long-term investing goals and maybe some tips for beginner level investors who are just starting to invest in the market.
For my actual portfolio, it is just a ton of VFV, which in Canada is VOO. We have something called a tax-free savings account. So I'm obsessed. So this is the one, when I say the words VOO, VFV, I feel good inside. I love it. It's for me, I guess I'm emotionally attached to it because it changed my life. It's like when I didn't know much about investing and I figured out ETFs and I was like, what the hell? And it was just like, it felt like free money. I'm like, I just keep putting my money in this thing and I check back in 30 years and I got $1 million. It was actually revolutionary for me. So whenever I talk about investing, it's like, just please do this. I don't feel when people say when they buy VFV or VO, it's like, oh, you're investing in the American market, the S&P 500, you're too concentrated. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? There's 500 companies. I feel like you're way too diverse. For me personally, you talk to a value investor, they're like, you're overly diverse. You're not the most efficient. They think it's actually too broad. But then you talk to people who buy all-in-one ETFs, like it's too concentrated. For me, I don't have that problem. I also am not one of the doom and gloom people where I think America is going to go anywhere anytime soon. I'm a Canadian and I'm going like, no, man, like if something happens to America, we're all effed. The Canadian market goes down. Europe's scrambling. Like we need you guys to succeed, right? So I'm investing in my future. I need America to pan out and be great in 30, 40 years. And they're innovative. All the smart people are there. All the money is there. It's fine. And even when you own the S&P 500, they're all international anyways. Apple's over here. They're all like, it's like you're owning the world anyways. So for me, it's VFV, TFSA. I put VOO for Canadians. It's something called the RRSP because we don't have to pay the 15% withholding tax on US dividends. So I just get VOO and RRSP. Same exact thing. I'm not subject to the 50% withholding tax. There's the other ones I buy, and it's for Canadians. XCC, emerging markets. You're talking India, China. XCF, developed markets. You're talking like Europe, like Sweden, whatever. And then you have XIC, the Canadian TSX 60, and S&P 500. So what I just told you was I buy the world in the most boring way. But in my personal preferences, I have 90% of it though in VO, VFV. The rest is between those other 3. My wife is more conservative than me, so she has more of an equal split between the 4. Because she's like, oh, let's give me a little bit of everything. And this is our personal preferences. But that's it. So when people go, what's your actual portfolio? I just told you. And then I buy things like Google, Meta, when they're crashing, like in 2022, I bought a ton of AMD this year, when I felt it was undervalued. Cause I've been watching AMD for years. I bought Intel, as well when it was undervalued. So I'm like, oh dude, everything I own is in Intel. But I understood those, markets inside out. And that's value investing. And then that's when I go, like, I throw a lot of money on stuff and I don't think about it. Like, that's where I'm putting my money. So the 200K, I was like, I made my money back for the 200K the 100K that I've lost more already this year. Like I'm chilling, but that's how I invest. So I do well thought out, concentrated single investments on value plays of companies I have an intrinsic understanding about. And then I just keep buying into the VFV VOOs constantly throughout the year. And I don't care if I buy at all time highs because I've learned my lesson of it does not matter because I have my time horizons 30 years and I always look back going, God damn it, I wish I put in more. And so, because we're just hitting all time highs constantly and we're in a different age. People keep going. It's going to crash eventually. It'll crash, then go back up, crash, then go back up. I'm just going to capture all of it. And we're in a whole different, with the AI revolution and the way the margins are getting better and better. You can't predict what's going to happen. I think we're outside of the look at historical performance of what will happen. It's going to be a crazy next couple of years. I'm just going to make sure I'm going to capture all of it and I'll get the average of whatever the result is in 30 years. I'll capture that average. And I'm cool with all of that because I'm busy trying to make more money every single month through my corporation. Like that's where my brain is. And that's why I just have that on autopilot. And then in the meantime, I make crazy YouTube videos for you guys. And then I also try to interview people way smarter than me on the podcast. So when we bring in experts of value investors and stuff like that, that's why we have it, to be like, all right, I'm busy with all this other stuff. Talk to us for the next hour, 2 hours, educate everybody. And then they just information dump and then teach me and teach everyone else watching in real time. That's it. So if you're a beginner investor, here's the roadmap of how not to F up all your money. If you're 20, 30, how to end up with 1 mil. Step A, whatever money you make, do you have 6 months of emergency fund? Do you have that? If you do not have that, get that done. A lot of people like to invest while doing that at the same time. Sure, start investing simultaneously if you want to do that, but get that emergency fund built up in tangent with your investments. If you invest, my preference is a VOO in your tax sheltered accounts. If you don't want to do VOO and you're more conservative, go get an all-in-one. I'm sure there's a ton of all-in-one ETFs in the States. You can pick one. They'll perform roughly the same. Who gives a shit? Just get it and start putting your money there. Max out all your tax sheltered accounts. Get that all that done. That'll take you a while. And when that's done, then you can start thinking about what you're going to do in your non-reg. But until then, keep maxing those out and make that your priority. And then once you max out and you invest in that, forget you even own that. That's not your money. You don't mess around. You don't take money out. You don't use it for a rainy day. You don't care about it. You could look at $1 million in those accounts. It means nothing to you. It's just money that's there that you don't even think about, and it just keeps compounding, you keep contributing to, and then you just keep living your life. Like, I have money in those accounts, but I don't even equate them to my net worth because I know I'm never going to tap into them until way down the line. So I don't think about it too much. And that's all you do. I can make one video on investing in Unos and we'd be done. Our YouTube careers are over. It's get an emergency fund, make more money in your day-to-day life, and then just buy S&P 500 and all-in-one ETF, and then that's about it. Just make sure you max out your investing, your tax shelter account. We're good. Gary Gill, one video, 100 views. We're done. That's it, right? So, I got some MSTE drama. I got a lot to talk about on my end, but like that's all it would be. That's all I do. That's all my success has been because of that. Like, not that entertaining.
Yeah. Well said, Gary. And thank you so much for being on the channel. Be sure, guys, to go ahead and subscribe to Gary's channel. It is Gary Gill on YouTube, as well as give him a follow on Blossom. Now, once again, investors, this content is not financial advice and for educational and, let's just say, entertainment and informational purposes only. We are not financial advisors. Do your own research. If you guys like this video, please give it a like because this cute puppy did. We will see you guys on the next one.